Hey, what was your name? Hey, it's really nice to meet you. So, tell me a little bit about yourself. Oh no. What did he say his name was? Shoot, he just said his name. Oh, it was Tim, Tom? I'm never gonna remember it, and now I'm gonna be embarrassed to even ask him. Now, I don't know if you resonate with that, but I certainly do. Several of those scenarios for me is like, sometimes I'm like, it's embarrassing, it's awkward, it's hard, whatever. So here's what I want to do for you today. I want to talk about the importance of remembering names and give you some tools on how to remember names and be better at it, be like crush it, be a master at it. And I also want to include this training for you as a free download, a gift for you to use with your volunteers. I'll edit this video down so it's just the training portion, not this like talk part here. So that you can use it with your volunteers and some training for your volunteers to become better at remembering names. And I'm also going to include some questions for you that, as part of the download, that you can use in response to the video with your volunteers. Hey, my name is Eric with a K, and I'm the host of the Practical Youth Ministry Tips podcast. And today I want to talk about the importance of remembering names. I don't know if you remember, if you're old enough to remember infomercials. I know they're still around, but infomercials were a big deal back in the day.
Hi, it's Vince with Sham Wow. You'll be saying wow every time you use this towel.
When I was younger, and like there wasn't shows happening late at night, but late at night infomercials are happening. And I would watch these infomercials and I'd be like all in, like they sucked me in, and I was like, oh, I need that.
I need that.
They just showed me why I need it. So there was one night I was watching infomercials, and there was this one by Kevin Trudeau called Mega Memory. And I was like fascinated. It was all about remembering things and people. And he walked into a room filled with 100 people. And he walked through the entire audience. And we watched this happen. And he met those 100 people, got their names, and then he went back through the names later on and said every single person's name. And I was like, that's amazing.
I think it's York, have a seat, Rob, have a seat, Alana, have a seat, Matt, have a seat, Janine Nubani, have a seat, Jules Lead, have a seat, Ordo, have a seat.
Now, I'm not that good, not even close, but I do want to be way better at remembering names, and I've actually gotten to be pretty good. I was going to say they give you these tracks, but it was cassettes that I got to listen to. That's how old it was.
On one cassette.
All about this. Now, I'll come back to that in just a minute. So Dale Carnegie, in his famous international bestseller, How to Win Friends and Influence People, listed 6 ways to make people like you. And I want to read to you the quote from his book. It says this: "A person is more interested in his or her own name than in all the other names on earth put together. Remember that name and call it easily, and you have paid a subtle and very effective compliment. But forget it or misspell it, and you've placed yourself at a sharp disadvantage." One of the simplest, most obvious, and most important ways of gaining goodwill was by remembering names and making people feel important. Yet how many of us do it? That's what he says in there. And in his books, he has these 6 ways to make people like you. And it reminds me of the Office episode where Andy's like, I have very specific ways of making people like me.
How? Name repetition, personality mirroring, and positive reinforcement.
These are his 6 ways. Number 1, become genuinely interested in the person that you're talking to. Just become interested in them. Number 2, really simple, smile. Number 3, remember that person's name. Remember, that is the sweetest word in any language to that person. Number 4, be a good listener and encourage people to talk about themselves. You ask someone to tell them about them, they're going to be more apt to open up to you. It's crazy. Number 5, talk in terms of the other person's interest. And number 6, make that person feel important and do it sincerely. Don't make it inauthentic. Do it sincerely. Now, these are great tips. And number 3, right, that was remembering people's names. So I want to take you through a list of some quick tips and tricks in learning people's names that I believe will help you tremendously. You'll become a master of names. And some of these are from that Mega Memory course that I purchased many years ago, a couple decades ago. And some of them are just from life experience. All right, so number 1, don't believe the lie. too many people say that they give themselves this belief. They say, I'm just terrible at remembering names. I'm really great at faces, but I'm terrible at names.
I'm terrible at coming up with names.
It's not my thing. I don't believe that. I believe that we tell ourselves that and then we start to live that out. But I think it's a lie. And we believe that lie. And the other thing is, it gives us an excuse to be lazy.
Today I don't feel like doing anything.
It's like an excuse. I'm just not good at names, so I'm not going to make the effort to listen and try to learn your name. John Acuff, in his book Soundtracks, says that those kinds of thoughts are broken soundtracks, and when we have a broken soundtrack, we kind of live out the broken soundtracks that we listen to. And so we need to replace those broken soundtracks with new soundtracks and then start living it out. Like telling yourself that you are good with names and then actually make it matter. Number 2, be motivated to meet new people. Actually go out of your way to meet new people. Don't be in your comfort zone and just hang out with the people that you know or talk to the students that you know or whatever. Number 3, like in the thing you saw at the beginning, ask the person again. If you're like me, sometimes you can ask a person's name when you first meet them and 15 seconds later you're like, oh no, what is that person's name? That literally happened to me the other day. I was at my son's practice and I met a mom of one of the boys that my son was with, and she said her name and I immediately forgot my son's name or her name because my son was doing something and I was paying more attention to that and I didn't make her feel important. So I paused for a second and I said, I'm sorry, can you say your name again? That was actually pretty important for me to do. Number 4, history. If they have a unique name, like this mom I met, her name, ask them where that name is from. Like, how did she get that name? So this lady's name was Joytika, and it's an East Indian name, and her parents are from Fiji. So for me, that name, I'd never heard it before. It was interesting and unique, and I asked her some history behind, like, that's a unique name. Like, complimenting that name, I think, is significant. And then number 5, repeat. Immediately repeat someone's name back to them once they give it to you. And here's what it does. Like when you say, hey, my name is Mike, I'm like, oh, hey, Mike, nice to meet you. And what that does, it does a couple things. One, you're certain that you have the person's name right. And 2, it locks that name in for you. You really need to say their name out loud as part of remembering it. Otherwise, it falls into like a trash can and it's worthless, right? And then number 6, use it. So in your conversation with that person, use their name. Like, you know what, Mike? I completely agree with you. Thanks so much for making me understand that. I really appreciate it, Mike. That's significant to me. Like sometimes it might feel awkward, but you're using that name several times, repeating it in your conversation. That's going to help make that stick. Okay, this is the weirdest one, but honestly for me, the most fun is features. Look at the person's features. What is it about their face?
Sorry about your face, man.
Is their glasses, their hair, maybe the way they're dressed, maybe they've got earrings or whatever. And then connect something about their name to some feature and make it bold. Okay, so let me give you an example. When I met Joytika, I used her name a couple times in the conversation, but I also, in my mind, I pictured liquid joy. She had these bold glasses, and I pictured liquid joy, it's blue, being poured on her glasses, then it kind of dripping down off of her glasses onto her face. And then chicken tikka masala, which I love. I imagine taking the chicken tikka masala and tossing it to her glasses, and it sticks to the liquid joy. Like, for me, that was like, that's ridiculous, right? But it helped me to remember. I, to this day, remember that name because of how I pictured it with the features that I saw on her face. I think you're going to remember the name Joytika as well, right? The more ridiculous, the more it sets into your brain what their name is. I could vividly see these things. When I saw her the next time and I saw her glasses, I immediately pictured that blue liquid joy dripping off and me tossing chicken tikka masala on her glasses. Joytika. So the next time I saw her, I said, hey, Joytika, how are you? And you can see on her face that the fact that I recognized her and said her name was significant. And that will happen all the time for you. Okay, the 8th and final thing for this video is write it down. Now, I used to keep 3x5 cards and I write information down, but now I just use Evernote. You can use the Notes app on your phone or whatever. Anywhere that you can keep a file regularly right in your hand, right? And I write down as much information about the person I've met as possible. So I write down the date that I met somebody, I put down their name, and then I describe them. I write down the things we talked about. So when my neighbor down the street moved in, I met them on their moving in day, and I heard about their family, where they moved from. They actually moved from just a town over, found out about their kids, and why they moved over. They actually moved into this area with 4 other families into like a couple neighborhoods around us that just all are close friends and wanted to be in the same town together. So I wrote all of that information down, and then the next time I saw them and I saw him, I got to say his name. And here's what was interesting. It's all part of the learning process. We all learn differently, right? We learn visually, verbally.
Oh, I'm a visual learner.
But like writing something down or typing it down, all of the different ways are going to help you to remember somebody's name. Now, you don't want to just write it down once. So like you have a new student that shows up in your ministry, and then the next week you're like, oh man, I met them last week. I don't remember their name, and I'm too embarrassed to really ask their name. I just say get over it and just go, hey, dude, I know we met last week. I'm just drawing a blank. Can you just give me some grace? What was your name again? I think that's okay. But when we write it down and then you review it, let's say you review it before your next meeting, you go through the list, that's going to be super helpful. In our ministry, we also take pictures of students.
Take your picture?
Even better. But this is for any time you meet somebody. Remember, knowing someone's name is going to do so much for you. It's going to win you such favor. And that's just human fact. And if you can take these steps, you start using them, right? Information is only as good as what you do with the information. If you just watch this video and then you don't ever employ any of these tactics, you're not going to become better at remembering names. But if you go through and start using these tactics, even choose 1 or 2 of them that you're just going to own that, you will start mastering names. And you'll no longer be the one who says, I'm really great at faces but terrible at names. You can say, no, I'm pretty good at names. I'm actually really good at names. So I work really hard at being good at names, but I've left that old self in the past, right? So thanks for watching this video. We're going to go to questions at the end here that you will be included in the download for you to discuss in a small group setting or large group setting for that matter, and have people break off. If this video was helpful to you, would you click the share button and let somebody else know? I've got tons of great videos that will encourage you and be helpful to you. I'm thinking of more future videos that you can use to download and use for your volunteers as training. I'll be working on some of those for the near future. And I hope that's an encouragement to you, free resource for you, and that will make you and your team better. And quite frankly, watch the video and do it yourself. It doesn't matter to me. But I'm again, hope this is a helpful resource. Click on the screen there and you can watch some other videos. And until next time, see ya!